I did put out a lead magnet, which was the first step in our process, and it was on my website, but it did not pull. So I think it needed a lot more traction, a lot more visibility.
So I just went to your website really quick so that I could look at the workbook to see, obviously we've interviewed a lot of users on this podcast, and there's, around 8 types that are working today. So we talk about that in this asset. One of them is welcome back to another episode of Launch Your Private Podcast. Today we are doing another coaching episode. So excited to have Donna Duffy here, who is a strategic business coach that helps women over 55 get clear on their signature work. Donna, we are so excited to have you here. Why don't you take a minute and maybe just explain to our listeners a little bit more about your business and what you do?
All right. Well, I'm so happy to be here. I'm coming off of a bit of a hiatus after losing my parents just 4 months apart from each other and being in there as their caregiver. I just had to push the pause button on my work. And so I'm back, and the downtime has helped me really spend time getting the clarity around what I'd like to do. And I'm circling back here in this platform with you wonderful women for guidance. And just my heart is to help women over 55, even those of us over 60, who really want to do their primary signature work in the time we have left in the season of our lives. And so I really love helping women refine that and then amplify that, the visibility they need to step into it and do the things that can help them make the biggest impact and difference in the time they've got.
Love this. Now, Donna, you are no stranger to business and you're not new to Hello Audio, although we're just circling back and kind of refreshing all of this,
True.
which is
Yes.
awesome. And I think this episode is going to be great for a lot of folks who may just be getting started. Again, you're getting restarted, but for those of you that are listening, getting started with Hello Audio and maybe just deciding what feed to start with first. Because I think, especially if you're an avid listener to this podcast, you're probably filled with ideas because we can't help ourselves. And I feel like every podcast has at least one or two. And I think this episode's going to be great for those who might need a little bit of a framework or a process to think about what do I start with first? Because I think based on the work and what you've shared with us, we could go in a couple different directions with this. So I'm excited to dig in. I think the first question I'm going to ask you is in this stage of business with where you're at today, what is the main business goal or maybe business metric that you're really looking to impact? So are you looking for more leads specifically, or perhaps more clients? I'm curious where you're at in terms of the business goal you're trying to achieve.
Well, I think I'm going to say yes, and there's probably another yes in there simply because stepping back, that means the list wasn't warm. So,
Mhm.
and it means my visibility really tanked. Like I was in there every week. I have a Facebook group. I was incredibly active in there, went live every single Friday with tons and tons of videos, but then just dropped completely off. So I've stepped away. So I feel now I've got to ramp that back up. I've got to get that visibility piece in there and really find the best medium for that. Maybe more than one platform, but I think that's part of it is yes, for the leads, but then to have clients, is definitely, and to build community. I think that's part of it so that when someone is finished working with me, they still have a place that they can gather to share this journey together. So it's part of it.
Okay, that's helpful. I'm
Mm.
curious with the Facebook group. So let me focus on that for a second, because I'm assuming you've got a certain number of people in the Facebook group. And then even if they're not warm, that's okay. And then obviously you still probably have your email list, even if we haven't warmed them up in a while. Can you give me an idea of the amount of people that are currently in the Facebook group and on your email list?
So in the Facebook group, I'm going to say 380. In my list, and I just did the brave act of migrating out of Keep since I was in there since 2012. So I need a gold star for
Wow.
that.
Yeah,
Um,
that's huge.
yes. So I think that whole transition, I'm going to say from what it was to what it is and really cleaning it up, probably about 1,200.
Nice.
And that's not any of my social media. That's just email and the Facebook group, not my social media followers or anything.
Okay, perfect. So it sounds like even though, we haven't been necessarily communicating on a frequent basis, we still have a reach. We still have reach here. And so
Absolutely.
probably if I had to choose between reactivating my existing reach, so those that have known me, they've been exposed to me at some level, even if it's been a hot minute since they've heard from me, that's okay. And looking at that compared to getting new leads, it is a lot easier to reactivate existing leads or existing contacts.
Totally agree with that, and I would give the same advice if someone were coming to me. I would say the same. So I'm
Perfect.
totally on board with that.
Okay. If I'm going to look at what I could do, what type of audio assets, so I'm going to throw out a couple of ideas and then I think we can kind of narrow it down.
Thank you.
Starting with what we talk about a lot on this show, obviously lead magnets. Now, lead magnets are great not only for attracting new leads, but they're also really great for getting people to raise their hand again, even if they're already familiar with what you're doing. And
Right.
so, creating a lead magnet could kind of be a dual purpose, which I love efficiency and I love not to waste time. So assets that I could use for more than one purpose makes me really happy. So this, if you did create a lead magnet that is focused on, and we'll talk a little bit about the content and narrow that down in a minute here. You could absolutely use that to reactivate and get people to re-opt in and raise their hand again so that you could see of the people that you have the ability to reach either through that Facebook group, through social media organically, or through your email list, how many people might be interested in that specific topic. And once you're ready and kind of see what you're working with, you could, and if you have capacity, then use that to potentially go out and get new leads as well. So I think I like that because it gives you the opportunity of doing both with one asset.
Right.
So that's my gut is telling me we're going to go in that direction, but let me give you another thing that you could do here.
Now,
And
can
then,
I
and
step
I'm
in
gonna,
right there before you
absolutely,
go?
sure.
So in the fall, I did put out a lead magnet,
Okay.
which was the first step in our process, and it's called the Life Branches workbook, and it's based on a tree analogy. It's on my website, but it did not pull. So I think it needed a lot more traction, a lot more visibility. So there is one, but I'm not sure that is the one
Mm.
that I need for what we're gonna do next. So I love the whole concept of lead magnet, happy to build that out, but just wanted to let you know I did put my hat in the ring with that to a little bit trying to show back up. And then I did drop a blog article that got a lot of response. I did that in December on the anniversary of my dad's passing. It was a message from my dad that I had shared, and that got a lot. So, yeah, I think the lead magnet is a really powerful tool, and I can already see the ways I dropped the ball in that for not giving it the traction, the visibility, the follow up, all the
I was
things.
gonna say, how'd you send it? Okay, so there's maybe something we could start with, Nora, like, maybe some repurposing, depending?
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm thinking. So I just went to your website really quick so
Mm.
that I could look at the workbook to see. And I do think that so at the time of this recording, Lindsay and I have just wrapped up an asset that we created for Hello Audio called Launch Your Audio Lead Magnet. And one of the options, so we talk about 8 different types of lead magnets that you could create based on, I mean, obviously we've interviewed a lot of users on this podcast, and there's around 8 types that are working today. So we talk about that in this asset. One of them, not to give away a whole bunch, but spoiler alert, is an audio walkthrough of a PDF. And so
Wow.
we know a lot of folks, especially if you really enjoy Canva and you're in there, and lots of people have beautifully designed PDFs or workbooks. And if you've been an experienced business person, you likely have a framework and a methodology. And so worksheets and exercises. And I know Lindsay being, teachers, like we could kind of whip those out pretty quickly. And one way to kind of reuse or repurpose that is to just add audio as a way to create more value and to also establish more of a connection. So if I had to look
Mhm.
at the type of connection that someone that receives a PDF in their inbox has to the brand, to the owner that creates it, it's flat. I mean, sure, you could have your text in there and your picture and your name, and a beautiful signature, but it's a very different experience for the end user if that person is hearing your voice walk them
Mhm.
through it and also helping them get, because we all know in certain exercises students get stuck in certain places, and if you're a teacher long enough and you know your thing,
Mhm.
you know exactly where they're going to get stuck and the questions that they're going
Right.
to have. And so being able to articulate that in an audio helps them feel guided through it. And especially if you're a coach, a consultant, or a service provider, a lot of what you do as a business owner is being a trusted advisor or a trusted
Mhm.
guide, right? Through something. And so
Right.
I do think that there could be something here with the workbook that would
Mhm.
allow you to use something you've spent time creating and poured a lot of effort into, and maybe just repurpose it by creating it into an audio lead magnet, which could be audio walkthrough of that workbook.
So you're really sparking something there because I had talked in a group about some kind of ways to walk that through and make that just more robust. So if you do look at the workbook, you get a chance, you'll see that there are activities to take you through the roots, the branches, the rings in the tree, all of that that signifies the journey of a woman's life over the decades and how her wisdom and experience. So that when she steps fully into her business, she's bringing all of that with. That would be powerful because I can see that like checking off a bunch of things in one go as a little audio ebook, mini course. Like there's so many things there on that particular asset, which for some would be step one if they haven't yet discovered really where their gifts and their greatest wisdom lies. So I love that. I think that's a great thing.
You said something that's really important there. So, when I went to your website and I saw the headline and it said, "Are you ready to unearth your signature work in this season of your life?" That to me speaks very specifically and very directly to the conversation that might be inside that person's mind, which is, I don't really know what I'm
Mhm.
meant to do. What is my signature work? And, I know that just as a small caveat, if you're in the course creation space, I know Lindsay and I operate in that space for many years. When people hear signature work, they have different connotations of what that means,
Mhm.
right? We think
Mhm.
signature framework or like all these things.
Got it.
And so what we might be dealing with, and maybe why this didn't convert as well, could be a reach thing, could be exposure, sure, but it could just be a tweak to the messaging to
Mm.
speak to the known need that person has in the language that they would understand,
Mhm.
Mhm.
instead of, because your level of awareness it's just a different level because you've been doing this work for a while
Mhm.
and you can talk to someone and you'll know immediately what they need. Whereas, someone that comes to you might be using different words to describe their problem or
Right.
have a misconception of what signature work is, or just maybe not understand it.
Mm.
And I think that maybe a little bit of tweaking to the messaging. And then I do agree that when I first see this, I see life branches. I don't understand your framework yet as a new person
Mm.
because I haven't
Mm.
seen that. So I don't understand what that means. And I don't see how that's relevant to me. And I have to opt in order to do that. Whereas we want to make sure that the messaging for that workbook or this lead magnet is so clear that this is going to meet a known need that I had, or solve a problem I already know I have, or help me achieve a desire I already know that I want. And then you can give me, once I opt in, I'm like, oh, this is a beautiful framework. And I understand, like, this is so nice, this is elegant. And I love how she did this. And it makes so much more sense. And I've never
Mm.
experienced anything like this. We want them to have that, but until we actually get them to opt in, they won't necessarily
Right.
understand the significance of what that looks like. And so I think this is a combination of reach, exposure. Hey, we just put together this new asset. It helps you do this. And here's how I get to that. This is the exercise I use for everyone. And if you've been a listener to the show, you've heard me say this. It's the currency exchange
Mhm.
exercise, right? So I think about even a lead magnet, it's free, sure, but it's still an offer. And so if someone's going to give me their real email address, their primary email address, right? That
Right.
has value.
Yeah.
I think for all three of us, we're like, if you want my real one, you're
Mm.
gonna, right? It's that's I add some value to that. And if I'm giving you that as a currency, a sort of currency, this asset is going to give me some sort of currency in exchange. And so what I
Mhm.
like to think about in terms of marketing messaging, I like to think, what is this asset either increasing or decreasing in that person's life
Mhm.
or business? And that might be clarity around what their signature work is. It might be confidence that, and I just literally go through and take a sheet of paper, doesn't have to be anything special. And I just put increase and decrease
Yeah.
on one side of the column. And I just go to town and I just write and I write and write and write. And so chances are your asset will increase and or decrease multiple things for this person who's going to be on the receiving end of it. And after I write and brainstorm all of them, I'm going to look at that list and I'm going to pick hopefully the top one. Sometimes it's the top three. I typically
Mm.
don't choose more than three. And I really think, what are the ones that they care the most about? What are the ones that maybe they value the most? They put, and that could be sure what would they pay the most to achieve or increase or decrease. And it could just be, what is the thing that like, I value my time really. So if it's something that's going to make my life easier, I put a lot of value in that lead magnet. I also value peace of mind, right? So if a lead magnet is going to give me peace of mind and not contribute to the chaos, in my mind already, that I place more value, perceive value on that lead magnet. So I like to do this currency exchange exercise because those are usually the words, what I'm going to increase or decrease, that I want to use in my marketing message so that in
Mhm.
an instant, that person can come to this page and say, this is going to help me increase. Got it. Yes, that's worth it to me. I want to do that. And that way, it's clear, it's not trying to be cute. Cause I mean, you've seen in business, how many
Mhm.
times have copywriters, you're like, what are you even trying to say?
Right,
And not
exactly.
that you've done that here, but I think the more direct and clear, especially when we're being bombarded by these marketing messages daily, and your demographic is as well, the folks you're
Mhm.
trying to work with are getting, I mean, people are trying to sell them things left and right.
All
And
day.
so
Yep.
the more clear we can be about what this is going to do for them, the
Mhm.
higher chance it has of converting.
Yeah. Would a quiz be a better way for a person to identify what that is? I kind of almost feel like, if I can maybe in a few bullet points hit some of those highlights, like you're saying, increase, decrease in that messaging, then I can eliminate any other step that would be a barrier to just one more thing they'd have to do so that you can jump in and grab this.
It could be. We absolutely have seen quizzes that have worked. I think quizzes really work well with audiences that need to self identify and
Mhm.
really understand what bucket they fall into because the bucket is going to determine their next action. So, normally in this case, it's I'm stuck. I can't take action. I don't know how to move forward. And I need the clarity of whether it's the archetype, what type of
Oh, yeah.
business,
Right.
whatever that is. If I need to put myself in a lane in order for
Mhm.
me to then take action, quizzes will work well, but only if that person, that lead needs they really truly believe they need to understand the lane that they need. If they don't
Mm,
believe that matters, then the quiz doesn't convert as well. But if they feel like they need a
Yeah.
label or they need to label themselves or be in a lane in order for them to move forward, then it works well.
So that could get eliminated and framing in, maybe tweaking that language a little bit based off that exercise, dial that verbiage in more in a way that resonates and lands in language they would use
Yes.
when they get through then and they get the actual lead magnet. What you're suggesting is they also have an audio walkthrough of that lead magnet.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And so how this might typically work is you would on your in your marketing messaging, you could say whatever we end up titling this. It could be, an audio series with a workbook companion or
Mhm.
something like that, an audio walkthrough with a guide, if you
Mhm.
wanted to say a guide, because
Yeah,
I don't know how many people
it's
love
called a guide in
workbooks.
there anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think that there's a couple different ways you could do that. When they opt in, you can send them an email and that could deliver the PDF and it could be, and you could also include instructions on here's, you've just been sent a separate email. Here's the subject line. This is how you're going to access the audio. We always recommend a quick link. So add yourself to the private podcast.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so actually, I just did this morning for Launch Your Audio Lead Magnet. I added myself to our new asset and then I used Loom on my phone and I just
Mhm.
recorded myself going to the email and I just articulated everything that I was doing to get access to the podcast. And I put it on YouTube and they could just watch that little probably less than 60-second video of me adding that podcast to my podcast app, my favorite
Oh, got it.
podcast app. And that way they're not confused. This is just how they get it. It's step by step, it's visual, and it's actually showing them my actual phone so that it looks like what they're seeing on their
Mm.
phone. And that just allows hopefully the subscribe rate to the private podcast to be
Well,
higher. You can also put the link to your PDF inside the show notes of your private podcast as well. So
oh,
that
yeah.
even if they take that phone, because I think the phone is always attached to us everywhere we go,
Mhm.
and they'll always have the PDF there as well.
So these things can be kind of crossing back and forth as well and lend them the support as a support to one another. I already have a whole series mapped for this, so it wouldn't be a big, record the audios, but then layer that piece in to what's in there, and then it leads back to a discovery call in the end. So
Yes, in that discovery call, so I would use a feature in Hello Audio called our universal footer universal show notes. And so what that is you would put it in there once, and then it shows up on every episode inside that private podcast, inside that feed. And so the link to the call to action should be in every episode. I think there are some folks that think, if I have multiple episodes, I need to wait to the last one or the second to last one. And that's not true. For a lot of people, if they're interested and they already know you, this might be great timing for them. They don't necessarily need to consume everything
Right, exactly.
for them to
Yeah.
take action. So I would highly recommend using that. And then I would also see the cool part about using this lead magnet as a way to then also have a call to action to a discovery call is you can add a bonus episode that so,
Mhm.
so you've got your walkthrough. That's great. I think that could be one episode. I think you could also add a bonus episode that maybe talks about how you work with clients, or maybe a client testimonial, or a
Mhm.
story, right, that you might use, or the framework that you use to help people discover their signature work. So it
Mhm.
gives people a little bit more of an insight. So if you think about the friction point in your funnel, specifically with discovery calls, and this goes to any coach, consultant, service provider that uses discovery calls, getting on a call with someone is not as
Mhm.
easy as it used to be. Right. And
Mhm.
we always do like, oh, time is our
Yeah,
most precious asset. And everyone's like, I'm not getting on a call with you. And they just, I got to get on a phone call. Oh my gosh. So
I know.
now you're able to give them a little bit more context, put them more at ease, maybe give them more reassurance, give them more insight into the process so that
Mhm.
they can already have a good idea of you, your values, how you work with people, so that they have a better understanding of this is a good fit. And they're a lot more confident booking that discovery call.
Right, right. I love it.
And if your current client is having great results too, there might be a chance that you interview her, or maybe she has a testimonial she could
Right.
record for you as well.
Yeah, I have had some of that just off of, a complimentary discovery call where
Yeah,
people are
there you
like,
go.
"Oh, I'm good." You know what I mean? So, but I have those testimonials too.
Mhm.
I love all this because I think just being able to, and I think this is where understanding that then this asset, if I'm getting this right, is for this particular lead magnet, right? So then if I wanted, say from there, we're bridging to a more regular episodic kind of thing, and someone opts in for that, that goes to another feed? Is that a different feed? Or does it stay
Yes.
on this feed?
So if I think of it as products, like
Okay,
think
there you
of
go.
this as a product, then it's
Thank you,
one
that
feed.
makes
And if you're going to do a Q&A feed, or you get frequently asked questions and maybe you're just going to drop an episode every week, I would put that on a separate feed as more, and that to me, could that be an opt-in? Sure. Could it also be something that nurtures your existing audience until they're ready? Yes.
Mhm. Yeah, good. Okay, that makes sense to see it like that because I wasn't sure where's the bridge, where's the
Mhm.
transition point to there, and if there is another feed, and say the person doesn't get on the phone with me, at least there's another place to keep listening, to keep watching, to keep till they're just to just hang in the space
Mhm.
until
Mhm.
they're ready to make a
Yes.
decision. Or, say they don't want to do the one-on-one coaching with me at that point. Maybe they want to belong to the community.
Hmm. Yep.
That's an opportunity too, a complementary community to just come and hang and be a part of and share and whatever. I think being able to see that clears up a lot for me because I didn't really understand what that how that transition point would be. So you did say that the lead magnet was one option and you had another thing you were going to say.
Yeah, for coaches or consultants or service providers that already have a lead gen system in place, or they already have a lot of leads, but they're coming to me and they're saying, my discovery calls aren't converting. Other issues I hear are I'm repeating myself on discovery calls,
Yeah.
or I'm not getting qualified leads. I'm getting a lot of tire kickers and I'm wasting my time on discovery calls. For something like that, I like to build what I'll call a demonstration asset. So it's not so much a lead magnet, it's more of an evaluation asset. So
Sure.
someone who is interested in your coaching, consulting, or service that you might provide, but they might just need a little bit more. They might need more reassurance, they might need more insight into your framework, and this does both things. This helps in the show up rate of discovery calls. Sure. Conversion rate, yes, it makes discovery calls easier because you're not repeating yourself all the time. And I think by talking about the qualifications of the folks that you work with, people can self select and weed themselves out if it's not necessarily a good fit. Now, that again is not so much lead magnet. If you think about where you're entering the conversation with someone when you're first meeting them, versus, okay, I understand what you do. I'm kind of interested. but I might need, I'm not sure yet, or I want to make sure this is right for me before I book a discovery call. This is more of that demonstration asset in the evaluation section of kind of that customer conversation. So you
But
could
you
use
see
that
this
as
more as an
well.
engagement strategy rather than a nurture strategy.
Correct. Yes.
Okay,
It's not
got it.
meant to be ongoing. It's just
Got it.
meant to be like what we just talked about, some of that same content like testimonials and case studies could absolutely be in this type of an asset too. It's just not really geared to be a lead magnet. It's more geared to be a conversion assist.
Got
And a
it.
demonstration of your abilities. And so,
Mhm.
and it's like the demonstration of your know how, your expertise, demonstration of your framework that you use. It's a lot of reassurance, and to be fair, this is more the content in something like that is geared more to address underlying fears
Mhm.
of our prospects before they get on a sales call or a discovery call. Now, here's what I will say. You can put that in your funnel in two different ways. One is you could just say, hey, before you book a call, you might want to check out this audio series to
Mm,
make sure this is right for you. Especially, I've had people do that if they're getting a lot of tire kickers or discovery calls are painful. Quite frankly, there's a lot of us that don't love like sales calls if because
right,
you just love to
exactly.
serve and you're
You
like,
know
I
that
wish I could
feeling's
just
feeling.
eliminate
Yeah.
that part of it.
Right, right.
And or in the discovery call process, you could say you booked a call and the confirmation, they say, before our call together, I'm going to recommend that you listen to this 12-minute audio series. It'll help
Mhm.
you understand what to expect and it'll help us make the most of our time together. And
Yeah.
that's how I would use it on the backside of discovery calls. And you could do it both ways. You could say if you haven't listened to it already, then I would recommend that you listen to this short audio series that'll give you a more of an insight as to how I work with clients and answer some of your most common questions before we chat. And you
Right.
could answer that. You can kind of, and granted, I'm not trying to write copy, but that's probably the wording I would use in order to help make those discovery calls a lot easier and, to be fair, a lot more fun. I'm
Mhm.
guessing you're probably similar to me in the sense that, like the sales stuff, sure, but I really like connecting with people and I like to understand them and I like to get to know them. And so it's like we can handle all the business stuff, sure, but I really want to use our time together to connect with you and to learn
Yeah.
about you. And
Right.
and that to me is a great use of both of our times. If you listen to my little audio series before we get on a call, and
Mm.
now I can just focus on you.
Yeah, that's really great because it does position your authority without you having to say, "So, let me tell
Yes.
you about me." You know what I mean? So it really kinda takes that part out that just feels yucky and you don't wanna do that. And I think they get a feel for your vibe and your energy, and then, yeah, it paves the way a little bit for the call, and I could see that as an effective thing kind of post-call, not yet place too, where,
Yes.
that allows that person to get a little bit more of that before they make a decision on the direction they wanna go.
Yeah. So anytime we've created this asset for someone that's where it's brand new, I will always recommend that they send it to the people that they had discovery calls with that didn't convert and say, hey,
Mhm.
I know we chatted back in XYZ, April, May, June, doesn't matter. No, we chatted a while ago. I wasn't sure if you were still interested, but I just put this resource together and I, wanted to send it your way. So you could absolutely use it as a way to reactivate leads. Now, I will say a
Mm.
ninja strategy here. I'll give you one other tip if you do decide to put this strategy or this more of a demonstration asset together is that I like to maybe a month, 2 months, 3 months out, I drop a bonus episode in there. And so
Mm.
if they didn't convert, I'll drop, and this is purely value add. So, training that I just put together, a workshop, maybe a micro thing that I did, a presentation that I may have put together. And you could always schedule it to drop. That's fine too, depending on how you want to set up the feed. But I drop it in there and I say something along the lines of, hey, I know we haven't, chatted in a while. I wasn't sure if you're still interested, but I just dropped a new episode in that feed. If you can't find it, let me know. Or maybe here's a direct link to it. You could obviously do it that way and make it a lot easier, but that's
Mhm.
just a great way to reactivate leads because we know that there's a lot of times that it's not a no, it's just a not right now.
Not yet, yeah. And I think the whole thing I'm thinking of you, it's kind of like a little audio card in a way.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember back in the day, there were audio postcards. Do you remember that? And you could drop
No.
these audio they were so cool. I don't know whatever happened to that software, but so I've always kind of been drawn to this and I did use that back in the day. And I feel like once I get over the little like bumpiness and turbulence of me, I'm going to be like, You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
a matter of getting it the parameters around to get my head around it because I can just see the value of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love
Just
all
keep
that.
taking action. I think it's
Yep.
like, you know what I
How to
mean?
eat an
Just
elephant,
keeps moving forward. Yep.
one foot at a time, right? So
One
just
step at a time.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love all this.
Yeah. And I love that I feel like the lead magnet, because you've already done so much work and it is top of
Mhm.
mind for you, is an easier lift,
Sure.
which, anytime Lindsay and I are talking with folks, it's like, what feels good? What feels
Mm,
good to start with? Because we both know that if it feels good, it's going to probably be a lot easier and more fun to do. And yeah, sure, I grew up in the era where you don't necessarily need to have fun. You got to do it. And I also know that I enjoy it a lot more when it is
Mhm.
super fun and feels good. And so we do take that into consideration in terms of which feed to start with first.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I have a thing, start here, circle,
mm,
like,
Yep.
put that little pin in the map and get going because I've already put the work in.
Yep.
And
mhm.
this will come, just kind of stream of consciousness in a way, very flowing off of an existing doc. It's not a
Right.
kind of heavy lifting. It's
You've done
already
it
Yep.
probably
it's
a
an
million
easy
times.
bridge. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So just need to put myself a deadline and work my way end in mind and work my way back to today and get this stuff done. So yeah, I love that.
Perfect. Awesome. I'm glad we can help. I'm excited to
Yeah.
see this.
Same.
When you do have it drop, be sure
Mm.
to tag us on
Yes.
Instagram at Hello Audio FM so that we can share it as well, because that's going to be exciting to see.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Thank you.
I'm glad you decided to do this today too, because I know you were like, I don't know if
I
I should
was, I'm
get
like,
started or
because,
something.
yeah, I'm like, I'm not sure I'm gonna be your best, but I'm so
No, like I like showing people that there's like so many parts of this. We'll have people that have 7-figure launches and we're talking about their strategy, but then we also have people that literally are trying to just get the next thing out there. And
yeah.
so I think, yeah, presenting like what business is really like is important to Nora and I, because we can highlight all the like top whatevers like by results, but like you're a result, right here, showing up today,
Yeah,
doing the work. And I think that really matters. And I think I personally think a lot of people see themselves more in that type of stuff. So to me, I was like, I feel like this is for you and I feel like you should come.
yeah, I
So
love it. Thank you so much for just being like, yeah, we know. Okay, we got all that. Appreciate all those things, but come on,
yeah,
we'll
start
figure
where
it out.
you are. Yep,
Yeah,
we'll figure it out.
absolutely. Here you are, square one. Just go.
Hmm.
So I love it.
Cool, Donna.
Yeah,
Thanks for hanging out with us and showing up and coming back and
absolutely.
all the things.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate it, and I'll look forward to getting that over to you when I get it going.
Yeah. So do we want to, did we do the coaching episodes? We never asked that question. This is
Not
like a
the
new
coaching
segment for
episodes.
us.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should. I think it works, right?
Sure.
Um, yeah. So we ask our guests, if you had a podcast, a private podcast of your life's musings, what would yours be called? I think I just want to know what Donna's is for some reason.
Mm.
Yeah. What would yours be?
Mm. I don't know. I've been journaling for about 43 years. So
Wow.
I've been, this kind of chronicle of my life.
Hmm.
Lived in the Middle East for a long time, raised my kids. My kids were born in Nazareth, Israel. We lived there for a while. I started a
Wow.
school there for Arab American kids. There's a lot of history here. I mean, places in the world. So I'm not really sure. I feel like just the it would be pretty much the chronicle, like
Mm,
just chronicling life. Because I
mm,
think there's so many things interesting that we can glean from one another, especially at this age and stage where we can feel like our glory years are behind us.
mm.
And this is what I want women at this age. I'm be 65, like you said, in August. So Medicaid's like Medicare is knocking on my door and, I'm seeing every commercial. It's in my inbox.
Getting all the
AARP,
pamphlets. Yeah.
all the things. Our mom's 60, we're not our
Mm,
grandma's. Like we still have so much to bring. So that's kind of where I really want to fan the flame of that in women and help them come alive to that. And say, in your corner of the world, what tiny part will you play? Because that is a ripple effect to encourage each other. There's the younger ones coming up, whether that's 20 or 40. We just encourage each other to keep bringing our best work to the world and pushing back all the things, rising above all the crazy noise and din of everything that could distract or discourage. And, so I just want women, I want to be surrounded by women like this. I hope they will be
mm.
blessed and encouraged by me. I think we need each other in a tremendous way. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I would go with it.
Agree with
I
that.
knew I was
Yeah.
supposed to ask you that question.
Yeah.
So thank you, Donna, for coming and hanging out with us. And yeah,
Thank you.
definitely keep us posted and we'll see you
All
around.
right.
Okay.
All right. So appreciated. Thank you.
And there you have it, audio heads. Another episode of Launch Your Private Podcast is in the books. I hope you're leaving today feeling even more ready to amplify your voice and connect with your audience in meaningful ways. The adventure continues in our next episode with even more insights, strategies, and inspiration to help you along your own private podcasting journey. Of course, make sure to check out helloaudio.fm to start your own private podcast. And remember, you've got amazing content that needs to be heard. So let's turn the volume up. Until next time.